For supervisors who are unfamiliar or new to peer support, the extent that a certified peer specialist will share about themselves may seem unusual or even unprofessional at first. But for CPSs and their participants, they understand that strategic storytelling and self disclosure are key strengths to peer support. And while self disclosure can be a very powerful tool, it can also make the peer supporter vulnerable. Because of this, peer supporters can benefit from clear guidelines given by their supervisor about when and how to utilize self disclosure with their peers in a way that can benefit the peer CPS relationship while also maintaining professional boundaries. In order to provide this guidance, it is crucial that supervisors educate themselves on the principles that guide storytelling and self disclosure. For participants, hearing about others' recovery journeys can inspire hope, increase empathy and validation, help the listener feel less alone in their struggles, learn of possible recovery supports, strengthen the relationship, help understand that recovery is not always a perfect linear process, inspire feelings of, if they can, so can I, combat stigma, find common themes between the listener and the storyteller, and help the listener feel more comfortable with sharing their own recovery story. There is a specific type of assurance and understanding that comes from being supported by someone who truly knows what you're going through. This lived experience cannot be taught, and it's what makes peer supporters so unique. But learning how to use their story with intention is a skill that peer supporters are taught in their training and on the job. Storytelling can also feel good for the person telling the story. It can be cathartic, people like feeling heard, it can make us feel more connected to the listener, or it can just be good to get something off your chest. But peer supporters utilizing storytelling as a part of their jobs know to always offer disclosure and storytelling with the sole intention of benefiting the listener. It is a strategic understanding of what to disclose, how much to disclose, for what purpose to disclose, and how to debrief your personal life story with the issue at hand for the peer. This includes guidelines such as always ask permission before sharing, seek common ground, don't focus on too many details, only share what you are emotionally ready to share, make sure to connect your story to recovery, avoid giving advice or promoting a specific recovery method, and always return the focus back to the peer. When following these guidelines, peer supporters can inspire hope, inspiration, trust, and guidance to their peers. If these guidelines are not followed, there runs the risk of taking away too much focus off of the peer, or the storytelling process becoming re-traumatizing for the participant or the CPS. Supervisors can guide their peer supporter through the process of intentional self-disclosure by looking at the three considerations outlined by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. These considerations include the content of the disclosure, the intimacy of the disclosure, and the duration of the disclosure. The content of the disclosure should be relevant to what the participant is currently going through. Why is the peer supporter sharing this information? Is it in service to benefit the peer? What is the purpose of telling the story? Consider which experiences may overlap with the peers. The experiences of the CPS and the participant don't have to be identical, but there should still contain some common themes. Storytelling should be trauma-informed process, and the storyteller needs to make sure that they get permission to share, as well as give a warning of any potentially triggering topics or details. The peer supporter also needs to be mindful of their own psychological safety when telling stories. A CPS needs to be sure that they are emotionally prepared to share the story and that they avoid any details that are too personal which might cause boundary concerns. The storytelling should be short and concise, turning the attention back to the participant and the topic at hand. The peer supporter can consider what debrief is necessary to make the storytelling process a learning experience, what parts of the experience are helpful, and what details are unnecessary. Supervisors can play a key role in guiding peer supporters through the process of intentional storytelling, but they can also play an additional role, one of integrating peer support principles around storytelling into the workplace culture that may be unfamiliar to these ideas. In traditional American workplace culture, It can be encouraged for employees to keep personal life and work life separate. In some atmospheres, workers are implicitly or explicitly discouraged from sharing any personal details about their life, relationship, or any of their challenges. This is particularly true when it comes to employees' mental health recovery, which is still considered too taboo of a topic to discuss openly in many workplaces. Let's look at this example. My boss has high expectations and does not understand mental health needs. She doesn't think that self care is important and would say that you don't call up sick unless you're bleeding from your eyeballs. In a time of increasing awareness around wellness, COVID-19 emerged. The large scale increase of both physical and mental health challenges during that time, and remote work blurring the line between work and home, has increased the institutional awareness around the importance of self care in the workplace. Despite these changes, discussing one's mental health recovery in the workplace is still not fully a cultural norm. Discussing one's mental health challenge can open someone up to experiencing discrimination, and discussing recovery is generally seen as unprofessional or an indication of bad character. When the higher ups found out that I have a mental health challenge, they now handle me completely differently with kid gloves. This can happen even in settings where organizations have adopted peer support programs. Peer supporters share their lived experience as a part of their peer support work, but also to address stigma and increase acceptance of people in recovery at the workplace. I have pride for my lived experience, and others need to know that this is important. Supervisors can act as advocates for peer supporters in their organizations to challenge antiquated views of what is considered professional and assert that lived experience is a core and valued part of their work, because for peer supporters, the personal is professional.